I, 32M, was disowned by my family 7 years ago due to a false accusation made by my female cousin, Jenny. She claimed I essayed her, and it cost me my entire life. My wife left me without hesitation. Luckily, I had a prenup in place, so I didn't lose a penny. My 2 brothers, 3 sisters, my dad, and my mom all believed my female cousin. My grandparents were already dead by then, but I'm sure they would have believed Jenny's lies too. The only ones who defended me were my uncle and aunt, Jenny's own parents. They doubted her when her story kept changing, and they had evidence I was somewhere else when the alleged incident happened. But my former family? They refused to believe it, even with the evidence staring them in the face. Online, Jenny was completely silent about the matter, and so was my family. It was strange. Why wouldn't they post something so serious online? I later learned from my aunt that Jenny had told them to keep quiet. I guess she knew she'd be caught in her lies. The police were never involved because Jenny claimed I had connections in the police department. Honestly, I was relieved. Facing legal trouble for something I didn't do would have been a nightmare. After that, my uncle and aunt became my parents. My biological parents? They became Jenny's. I stopped being a brother to my siblings, and Jenny took my place as their sister. My friends stood by me. They knew it was impossible for me to have been near Jenny at the time she claimed. I was at work, clear as day, with time-stamped records to prove it. By then I had already graduated college, lined up a job in a city far away, and moved on. The trust fund my grandparents had left me was transferred to my personal account after tuition and expenses were covered. I was ready to start fresh. My uncle and aunt apologized countless times for what Jenny's lies had done to my life. I told them they had nothing to apologize for. They'd done everything they could to fix the situation, and I was grateful. In the years that followed, I found a new normal. Holidays were spent with my uncle and aunt, who refused to associate with my parents anymore. I built a successful career as an editor at a popular magazine. I liked my job and the life I'd created. As for my former family, they blocked me everywhere. Social media, phone numbers, you name it. The only updates I ever got about them were from my aunt. Apparently, all my siblings had moved on. But Jenny? She lived a charmed life under my parents' roof. She didn't go to college or get a job. Instead, she spent her days watching shows and snacking. My parents even gave her their master bedroom and spared no expense to compensate her for my so-called actions. But their generosity came at a cost. Jack, 30M, took out a second mortgage for Jenny and was on the brink of divorce. Daniel, 24M, was drowning in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars deep, trying to keep up with Jenny's demands. Haley, 26F, and Diane, 28F, spent money meant for their kids on Jenny, causing major marital problems. Priscilla, 22F, gave up her dreams of college to support Jenny, throwing away scholarships and opportunities. Then, yesterday, everything changed. My aunt called me, and I thought it was about a vacation plan. Instead, she told me the truth had come out. Jenny had confessed. At her birthday party, after drinking too much, she admitted to lying. She made it all up because she was jealous. She wanted sympathy, money, and attention, and she got it at my expense. The fallout was immediate. Jenny was kicked out of my old home, and my former family was left horrified by what they'd done to me. Now, they want to make amends. But I've moved on. I changed my number, deleted my social media, and even changed my name to honor my uncle and aunt. They're the ones who stood by me. My former family begged my aunt for my contact information, but she refused. She told them it's up to me. Now I'm at a crossroads. Should I let them back in? Or should I keep the life I've built without them? They made their choices. Shouldn't they live with the consequences? It's been only a day since the first post. I have recently discovered that my former family's predicament is not what I expected. They were mere lies to get money out of me. They think that just because I work for a rich company, I'm rich by default. None of my siblings were ever married in the first place. Jack never had a house, so there were no mortgages at all. He lives in a small apartment in a rough neighborhood. Daniel ended up in credit card debt, not because of student loans, but due to his gambling addiction. Haley and Diane were doing okay for themselves, but they did have drug problems and needed money to fuel their addictions. Priscilla never had a job at a fast food joint in the first place. Plus, she dropped out of high school and currently lives with my former parents along with Jenny. She's just a bum. As for Jenny, she still lives with them. They forgave her right then and there and allowed her to stay without ever contributing to the household. I can't help but wonder about their mental state when they made that choice. Nothing has changed since the big reveal, which infuriates me. They want to make amends with me, get me to contribute to their lifestyles. But I'm not rich. I've been frugal for the entirety of the 7 years of estrangement. All my money went towards bills, expenses, utilities, before it ever went to savings. Meanwhile, Jenny is still in their lives, as if her years of deception meant nothing at all. I learned the truth with the help of one of my friends, who was close to my former family and worked as a private investigator. He hated them as much as I did, but he also wanted to dig up dirt to expose them for what they did to me. I made the choice not to get involved in the drama they brought upon themselves. It's not my duty to fix their problems. They should fix them on their own. I'm not going to give them even a dime of what I have. So, I decided to write a letter, which I asked my aunt to pass on to my former family. Hey, jackasses, I know you're all in financial dumps caused by your stupidity and recklessness. I mean, letting a bum like Jenny live off your parents for 7 years without a job? Why? You know the truth, and you're now under no obligation to support her. Yet, she's still a part of your lives, and you forgave her just like that. That's why I will not have anything to do with you in the future. None of you are worth my time, and I do not want to deal with your problems. I know you'll think, family helps family. When did you ever help me when I was accused? I'm under no obligation to forgive the likes of you. I have no familial obligations to you, and I certainly have no obligation to give you a penny of my hard-earned money. Kindly piss off. A random stranger who would rather have no family. I sent the letter to my aunt, and she will pass it on to my former family. I don't want to get into any drama. I want to enjoy peace instead. I also want to enjoy the money I kept safe during my estrangement. It's time for me to have some fun after my promotion, which took place a few weeks ago. I am now editor-in-chief, a position that came with a lot of benefits and better pay. I live in a small apartment with cheap rent. I love my neighbors. They work hard and try to make the best of tough times, whether financial or emotional. I've been planning to pay off my aunt and uncle's mortgage when I have the funds to do so in the future. For now, it's best for me to move on, just like my former family moved on without me. I, 35M, was disowned years ago, and 3 years ago, my ex-family wanted me back. I refused and thought it was the end of it. I was wrong. Life has been going well for me these days. I'm enjoying my job as editor-in-chief despite the heavy workload. At least my salary has increased over the 3 years since the promotion. My parents have sold their house and moved in with my aunt and uncle. The 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house sold for a tidy sum to cover their losses, as well as my siblings' losses. I don't know what my siblings' professions are, but from what my aunt told me, they claimed their finances are now in the black after paying off their debts. However, my parents had little financial gain from the sale proceeds, so moving in with my aunt and uncle was their only viable option. My aunt and uncle weren't too happy about it, but they felt pity for what my parents were going through. They took them in on the condition that they pay for their own expenses, get jobs, and help with house maintenance. They've been living that way for almost 5 months now. Calls, emails, and texts are limited since neither my aunt nor I want my former parents to know my new number. I don't want to speak to them ever again. I won't hear them out, just like when they refused to hear me out. As for Jenny, I have no clue. She was refused housing by my former parents, my aunt, and my uncle. She hasn't been heard from since, and I say, good riddance. I recently moved into a sizable house that I purchased for less than the market price, without a mortgage. It was a milestone in my life. After years of living frugally, I finally bought my very own house. It helped that I live in a small city with cheap housing prices. In a few weeks, everything was set, and all should have been smooth sailing from here. Unfortunately, the past has become an ever-encroaching storm for me. Remember when I used to be married and then got divorced? My ex-wife, the same woman who believed false accusations against me despite clear evidence of my innocence, is back. After a failed marriage with another man, she's currently homeless with 2 kids. Brianna came to my aunt and uncle for help due to her situation. Her husband divorced her out of the blue and kicked her and the kids out of the house. They had been living in homeless shelters and motel rooms for a few days before Brianna decided she needed help. She had been following my rise in my career on LinkedIn, hoping I would take her back and be a father figure to her kids. She felt I was obligated to help her in her time of need after all we had been through together. Her parents, however, supported me during the entire ordeal after seeing the evidence of my innocence. They even apologized for their daughter's abandonment of me. Yet, Brianna didn't want her family or friends to know she was homeless and was too embarrassed to ask them for help. My aunt told me all of this in an email, summarizing Brianna's story. That woman has the audacity to think I owe her anything. She left me without hesitation despite my clear innocence and never supported me when I needed her. Why would I ever support her and her kids who aren't even mine? My aunt agreed that it was ridiculous for me to be expected to help when Brianna had abandoned me. She felt Brianna should swallow her pride and go to her parents for help. After all, her kids are their grandkids, and they are their grandparents. My aunt also informed me that my parents were supporting Brianna and thought I should step up. I'm so glad I never went back to them. Once again, they chose someone else over me. They were looking for ways to convince me to take Brianna back and support her kids. They can try all they want, but I'll never take her back or be part of their lives. My money is my money, not theirs. I told my aunt about my decision to never take Brianna back or be a dad to her kids. She accepted my answer and promised to pass it on to Brianna. Things should have ended there. But unlucky for me, they chose to retaliate through less than legal means. Can you imagine checking on your investment account one night to see how much it has grown, only to find it empty? All $100,000. Gone. As if I never had the money in the first place. But wait, it said the funds were withdrawn. Maybe it's in my checking account? I logged into my checking account only to see $2,000 of my $35,000 remaining. Both accounts were with the same banking firm. Something was definitely up. I called the bank to report the unauthorized transactions. The representative assured me they would promptly investigate the matter. I immediately froze my accounts to prevent further losses. Still, I was shaken to my core. Almost everything I had was gone. Now I believe I already know who the suspect is. My aunt told me that Brianna had been telling my former parents and siblings that I was now financially supporting her and her kids. I'm seriously considering calling the police, but I'll wait to see if the bank does so first. Either way, I expect I'll have to confront my past, right now, for the first time in years. Hopefully, it will also be the last.